Who's presenting the together?
I call to order the CCSD21, March 21st, 2024, regular Board of Education meeting. Can I please get a roll call?
Debbie?
Here.
Bill?
Present.
I'm here. Stacy?
Yes.
Arlen?
Here.
Dagmara?
Here.
Phil?
Here.
Brandon?
Here.
Mario?
Here.
Elia?
Here.
Have a full house.
Awesome, thank you. Would everyone please rise for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move the microphone closer.
Okay, welcome everyone. I would first like to acknowledge the presence of Sherry Klump from the Park District. Always nice to see your smiling face. Any individual that is physically present at the meeting and wishes to address the board must complete a comment card and provide it to Ms. Del Real over on my left. Anyone attending virtually that wishes to address the board must complete the public comment card linked on the agenda. And any written public comments may also be submitted via email. First, I would like to start with board communications. Phil, can you share us an update on the Finance Committee?
Thank you, Debbie, and good evening, everyone. We had a 25-minute Finance and Operations Committee meeting before the regular board meeting tonight. We had 5 topics that were discussed. The first 2 topics had to do with, our policy of having certain percentage of funds that are put away essentially into reserve. So we had presentation from Michael DiBartolo on those. No action tonight. Those will be on the April agenda next month. The third item had to do with some changes to our affiliation with the Lake County Foundation, Family Foundation, that we are a part of, and there's some adjustments, again, I believe for the April meeting that will come back to us for action. One of them is providing funds for our new school-based health center. So that we're looking forward to getting that completely set up and the use of those funds. The fifth item was a review from our outside auditor, Baker Tilly, of our 2023 financial audit. And pleased to say again this year we have received the highest designation, which is recognition in the state of Illinois, for the handling of finances within the district. It hasn't been that many years ago when we were not fortunate enough to have that designation. So it's been a lot of hard work from staff to get us to that point again this year. And there is no material weaknesses that were shared with the committee and with the board. And again, this will be something, Michael, I believe next month that we will be dealing with. Was it just for the committee?
Yeah, we don't need to formally approve the audit.
Bless you.
Thank you. And that is the report from the Finance and Operations Committee.
Okay, thank you very much. The next on the agenda is the NSSEO update. Our meeting this past month was fairly quick. Our biggest thing was the largest fundraiser that their foundation has, which is their bingo night, and I attended. Bill was there with his wife Deb. Arlen was there, and as always, it was a huge success, and Arlen even won, so that was very nice. The only other thing that happened was, I know they just had a finance committee meeting today that I was not able to attend, so I'll get more updates on that to everyone. So next is EdRed. Bill.
Thank you. At the March 1st member meeting, we received a legislative update from Bridget. Topics of most interest included a discussion of the proposed polling place legislation, which is SB 3383 for anyone who wants to follow on that. A discussion of a proposal for mandatory seatbelts on school buses. For those of us who have been here for a long time, this is one of those things that tends to keep recurring. And finally, a discussion of a bill that would allow for payments of stipends to student teachers to try to increase the pipeline and reduce the burden on those coming up to our teaching ranks. Additionally, State Representative Dan Dittich did come to speak to us about his bill, which is House Bill 4622, which would allow school districts to provide an impact statement on any new education mandates at the request of legislators. Hopefully, this will allow us to give them an idea of some of the unintended consequence of many of their good ideas. The next EdRed member meeting will be held here on April 5th. Registration also is currently open for the EdRed advocacy event in Springfield. Information is currently available on the EdRed website, and they recommend that you do your application through your district, or Leticia in our case. And finally, EdRed and the Lake County ROE will be hosting a mini summit on June 12th at Vernon Hills High School. And as always, more information to come. And that is it for EdRed.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, did you have any updates?
No updates.
Okay, thank you. So next we have IASB. Back to Bill.
Okay. The IASB Advocacy Ambassador Program is up and running. At the March meeting, we discussed pending legislation, not litigation, including new mandatory training for new school board members. It was originally going to be for all school board members, but it's been amended. And a bill, which is SB 3773, which would require high school and unit districts to appoint a student representative that would have full privileges. And what that means is they'd be able to attend closed session. There was a great deal of talk about how that would cause significant difficulties, and IASB will be strongly opposing that bill. The North Cook Spring Division Dinner meeting was held February 28th, and most of us were able to attend. We had an interesting presentation on how the teacher shortage is impacting the state. And for all of you, the North Cook Board will be meeting at the end of April to plan next year's events. If you have any thoughts or suggestions on topics you would like to see us have presented, please let me know before that. And that's it.
Okay, thank you, Bill. North Cook Immediate Service Center.
Yeah, we have nothing new to report. We've not met since the last time we talked.
Okay, thank you. Still with you is the Wheeling Township 708 Board.
So nothing really new there. Last week, there was a meeting of the 708 Board itself, and they are struggling with trying to make progress without the financial support or without the levy. However, the township had agreed to pay for the survey, and so they are hiring Harper to do that. That will be a step in the right direction, so that we'll finally have some definitive information on community need. Last night was the Wheeling Township meeting, and the 708 Board was raised by constituents, but no further action by the Wheeling Township at this point.
Okay. Stacy, did you have any other updates?
No, on that, no.
Okay. Thank you. Now we're going to our local governmental agencies. Bill, did you have any other updates for anything?
Nope.
Arlen, anything else?
Well, I think you've all read about the Bears in Arlington Heights, and that's been in the news. There was a meeting just the other night, Monday night, and it does appear as though the Bears are settling on Chicago, at least for now, it looks like. So that's the only news. The big question in Arlington is what happens with the 300-plus acres if the Bears don't come.
Okay. Thank you. Stacy, do you have any other updates?
No, I just, I want to thank the district for hosting the Chamber of Commerce for our board meeting last month, as well as entertaining the opportunity to hold a manufacturer committee event here at the Admin Center on April the 23rd, I believe. But we very much appreciate the hospitality the Chamber does. I had the opportunity with the executive director to do a drive through town and visit local businesses owned by District 21 families the last week or so. So we stopped into 3 or 4 new businesses that are minority-owned and District 21 family-owned, in an effort to increase the conversation, again, between the schools and the businesses and the families. I was blown away by everything that I saw completely. Wheeling was built on small businesses, and so to see minority-owned businesses owned by School District 21 families is electric. So I very much look forward to, to bringing more information back by those businesses. And thank you again for allowing us to host the IMEC event here next month. That's all.
Thank you much.
One more thing, I'm sorry. I just wanted to extend my condolences to the Horker family for the loss of Mike Sr. that passed away about a week ago. Mike Sr. was a trustee in Wheeling for a long time. That board was really responsible, I think, for the rejuvenation of Wheeling 25 or 30 years ago. And so Mike Horker was a wonderful man, and he will be missed, and I wanted to extend my condolences on behalf of this board.
Thank you. Phil, do you have any other updates? No? Dagmara, anything to add? Jessica?
Just real fast, I was able to attend 2 super fun events this past couple weeks. One was the Tarkington 4th and 5th grade musical of Charlotte's Web. Mrs. Fielder, once again, hit it out of the park. I don't know what she does with these kids. They are so talented. Everyone did a phenomenal job. It was awesome. And I was able to, excuse me, attend the London Middle School 7th grade egg drop event last week. And then the second part this past week, where those whose eggs survived the 1-story drop got to have them dropped off the roof of this building. I was very impressed to see so many clever contraptions. I mean, these are, household materials. The kids come up with their own things. I think we have a couple future engineers coming out of London 7th. And I just wanted to send a thank you to Mrs. Carpenter and Mr. Burke for allowing me to attend, because it was super fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Deb, if I can just add, I also attended the Charlotte's Web presentation, which was tremendous. And ironically, Tim Hilgenberg, former board member, former president's daughter, was there with her family, and the family attends Tarkington, so it was great to see her as well. But it was a marvelous presentation. Last night I got to the Riley PTO meeting as well, and lively meeting with a lot of good stuff happening, so thank you.
Yeah, I'll add on that note. So in my short 10 months here on the board so far, I think March has been the busiest month of events across the district. As I looked at the calendar, we all watch for what we're going to attend: district events, PTO events, orchestra, band, plays. And so it really stood out to me because there's so much fantastic stuff going around the district. But the thing I wanted to acknowledge at today's meeting is the work behind it. So thank you to the teachers, the staff, the parents that show up, because the people that make those events happen are really going above and beyond. And, even like the PTO events, there's something so special about all those events where you see the staff coming together with the parents and the teachers. So I just wanted to commend everyone who's contributed to those this past month.
Thank you. And myself, I would like to put out a thank you to Cass for the wellness fair. It was wonderful. I had a great time. Got to see a lot of families enjoying themselves and getting a lot of information. So I know it's a lot of work. I wanted to appreciate it.
Totally
Mention my
phenomenal.
appreciation.
Yeah, totally phenomenal. Agreed.
Okay, now we will have our report from our student representatives.
Yeah, good evening. So, some updates that I have are the boys volleyball tryouts were yesterday and today, and I'm really excited because I myself tried out. So I hope everything goes accordingly to plan. Also, wrestling season has finished, and I know that one wrestler was able to go to state, and that's Christian. I don't know if he's in the crowd, but congratulations to Christian. Also, IAR testing we did last week, and I'm happy that's over. And also the girls' volleyball season ended, and that's I know that the girls at homes did a really nice job. So now for the student survey results, these surveys were basically just like asking questions about like your classes and like if you know like your schedule is if you feel like your schedule is like good enough for you. So basically, one of the questions on the survey was how if you feel like the 51-minute long core classes were long enough, just right or too short, and majority of the people said too long. Now, I can't necessarily agree with this because I remember in 6th grade that some of the core classes were an hour long, and others were like 40 minutes. So like the fact that they were able to even out the timing is really good. Another question that was on the survey was for the expo classes and whether 40 minutes is enough time. And most people said just right and too short. Now, I see why people would say too short is because most people think gym isn't really like that long. But I mean, if we're looking at the other classes, at the other exploratory classes, 40 minutes is just like just enough for exploratories. So yeah, thank you.
To continue on, sorry, good evening. To continue on to what Mario was saying, for London's updates, we have London Band and Orchestra was able to attend IMCON at Lake Zurich, so a performance there. From what I know, both band and orchestra did a very good job, and wrestling season is over, and I know a couple of students attend or made it to state. So I know Shaq is here. I saw him around here, and I also saw that the girls volleyball season was also over. They also had their celebration today. Track and field is going on, so I know Coach Myers is also here. So shout out to him because he's an amazing coach. He also coached cross country earlier this year. Boys volleyball has also begun. I was able to make the boys volleyball team myself. But to go back to the survey topics, so basically what it is, the district sent out a survey to students and to teachers' parents, so practically everyone, as to what the scheduling should, or what their opinions were on this scheduling was. So one of the more primarily questions were our core classes, since they're 51 minutes long, the majority of London's votes from students were, they believe they were just right, which I can see because every class has a certain enough amount of time and it's evenly spread around. The second highest option was too long, which I can understand why, for students not being able to sit long. And for students, at last, there was students that believed that the classes were too short. Going into exploratory classes, the exploratory classes were 40 minutes. Students believe that they were just right. But I think that another thing that caught my eye was that it was too short. I can understand why, because like gym, like as Mario was saying, was a big factor. Our cooking and career communications classes, so CCC, was also another class that was cut short, and a bunch of other classes that would like to have more time and not trying to put as much homework on students, as well as to add on for the core classes that they might already have. But all in all, the most amount is believed that the scheduling is just right. That is all.
Updates for Cooper. Our girls' volleyball season has come to an end, with them having first in conference as well as the conference tournament. Wrestling has come to an end. I do know a few wrestlers went down to state. I don't have names down right now. I know that track and field has just started up, as well as our spring musical this year, Singing in the Rain, as well as boys volleyball, and IAR testing has finished up. As far as like for the student survey updates, two questions that kind of stood out to me were the current length of classes, core classes. The majority of students said that it was just enough time to like get most of their work done. Some of them felt that it was too long, and many of them didn't think that it was too short. On the other hand, for exploratory classes, most of the students said that it was too short, which I can understand. You can't really get that much done, and normally those are the classes that kids find more fun in the day. Barely anybody said that it was too long, and a few students said that it was just enough time.
Awesome, thank you. One thing that I thought of that I'd like to get a little more meat into our relationship. If the three of you could think of things that you would like to report back to us, and I would also ask my fellow board members, are there things that you would like to ask the students to report back to us? I don't want answers right now. No, put some thought into it. You can email me or Dr. Connolly or Mr. Lapatino and any of us, and let us know what you think. I'd like to get this be a little bit more meaningful. I don't want it to just be fluff, which I know some people have thought it was, but I love the survey results. So thank you.
I also just want to say that this is our inaugural season for boys volleyball in the district. That is a new sport for us, which came directly from feedback that I got through our Superintendent Student Advisory Council last year, when the question was asked point blank, why don't we have boys volleyball? And I didn't have a good answer. So we have boys volleyball. And so good luck on the seasons, and looking forward to hearing how the first year goes.
Can I just add just a touch? Jessica and I both were at the Tarkington event, and it was a kick to have introduced with us our student board member. And that was the first time that's happened. I was very excited to hear your name called, and we were delighted that you were there. And you're adding so much to our board meeting, so congratulations to the three of you. But I so enjoyed that night because you were there. Thank you.
All right. So starting up with superintendent reports, staff reports, we have another opportunity to celebrate a number of the accomplishments of our students, both in and outside of their school buildings. And so I'm going to turn the mic over to Chris Lapatino, who is our director, and he will go through all of our introductions tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be able to present and talk through all the celebrations that we have for so many of the students that are here tonight. Push the button, thank you. And that's why we're celebrating all the students in front of us for all of the work that they've done, and for the many reasons to have a packed house tonight to be able to celebrate those pieces. So tonight, we get to celebrate two different groups for very different reasons, but all coming back to that idea of hard work and the celebration of that. So for our first group, for the Cooper Jazz Band, for Jazz in the Meadows, performing at the 39th annual Jazz in the Meadows Fest. 15 middle school programs performed, including some of our other middle schools' homes in London. Cooper placed first in the middle school division, playing the Attitude Adjustment, the Monin, and Sermon were their three songs. So under the direction of Cindy Severino, as well as Anthony Valenti, celebration to you. Cooper Jazz Band, if I could actually have you stand up and to be celebrated, we're gonna start calling out by names. We have our alto saxophones with Will C., Russell L., Barbara S., tenor saxophones of Jamie K., Kristen K., our Barry saxophones, Ethan L., Addison G., our trumpets, Lily K., Nathan A., Gavin L., KDC, piano, Daniel P. On bass, we have Zach F. Trombones, we have Aaron L., James S., Jonah S., Santi C., Celia P., Xavier R. Vibes, we have Amelia P., guitar, Dylan G., and drums, Michaela H. Congratulations.
Do you want to bring the trophy forward a little bit so that people can see it? Come on over.
Jazz band, for our directors and for our students, just thank you for your time, your dedication, and all the work. Parents, for all the time that you've also supported the program. Thank you so much. All right, following some of the shout outs from our student board reps. Thank you so much for leading the way in that. We want to celebrate tonight wrestling. Really some of the work that they've been doing for the last few months, where we're celebrating our regional state wrestling qualifiers held by the Elementary School Association. We had 19 students between our 3 middle schools that qualified for regionals, and then 7 qualified for state. Just what a great celebration we had for there. We'll work on my pacing, my apologies. So for our next piece, we have a short video clip just capturing for a moment what it's like just to try and celebrate and get that motivation of what it's like to go to state or regionals. And so this is kind of a representation over at Holmes, and what they did is kind of like a pre-celebration and getting ready for the state competition. So as we start, we're going to just recognize each of the building and the wrestlers that made it either to state qualifiers or for our regional qualifiers. First, I want to recognize our coaches, Brian Beam and Dan Velasco, for helping to support and lead the way. And then starting off with our regional qualifiers, David K., Aldo S., Max C., Care M., Philip P., and Tommy R. Congratulations, nice job. And then for our state qualifiers, we have David A., Hakeem C., Mikola S., and Artem V. Congratulations. And moving on to Holmes Wrestling, for our coaches, we have Patrick Fahey, Michelle Giron, and Danny Mendoza. For our regional qualifiers at Holmes, we have Thomas E., Alexis M., Jason M., Santiago C. And then our state qualifier of Christian G. Congratulations. And finally, we have the London Wrestling Program, coaches led by Bill Bohanek, Louis Myers, and Kevin Burke. Our regional qualifiers at London are Arthur L. and Anthony C. And finally, our state qualifiers, Shaquille S. and Brandon T. Congratulations.
I think what's really awesome about these kind of events and our evening is to be able to see just how many of our students are really excel at many things, both, like I said, inside and outside of the classroom. So, and to the staff and the parents who are supporting these young people in everything that they do, we just really appreciate and celebrate all of you. So again, thank you very much for coming tonight. We know it's Thursday night. It's one more wake up before spring break. Yay. So we really appreciate you being here tonight. And again, thank you very much. Another round of applause.
Yes.
A round of applause really to all of the kids, but to the teachers and the coaches to see the way that these programs have come back post-COVID. Debbie and I can remember being wrestling moms when our kids were in middle school and all the commitment that goes into that band and everything. But to see the way the numbers have built back in the middle schools specifically for these programs really goes to the coaches and how they are engaged in those young men to get them going. So my thanks really.
Excuse me, men and women?
And men, women, I'm sorry. Well, do we have any women coaches? No, we have women, all right. So yes, to all, no matter what. All right, wait, hold on. It's badass, man, no matter what. It's very, very cool, and it's very hard work, and a huge compliment to the coaches and everybody. It was a big deal.
Yes, it is.
It is very hard work. I tried wrestling in high school, and I lasted one meet when I landed on my neck, decided it was too difficult. So my congratulations to all of you. Music is easy. I love music, but I tried wrestling, and it was not for me. So congratulations on the hard work that you all are doing.
Yes. As the parent of a former wrestler.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a lot of work. As a former female wrestler, I have to thank our coaches because they are just tremendous and have made a big impact on my life. So thank you. And the parents who have to
real.
get up and take these kids to all their practices. So thank you all. Now, you probably have homework to get home to do, because even though you only have one day left. So if you want to stick around for the rest of the meeting, feel free, but I do understand if you want to get home.
Run like the wind.
So we'll take a minute while people leave.
No. Where did, oh, he's out working the crowd. Does he want to go get my coat in the other room?
Okay, we can get back to the regular business. Next on the agenda is the the quadrennial compliance audit report.
Thank you. If I may, just real quickly, I wanted to circle back to when Debbie noted the resource fair. Cass did a great amount of work but there were a lot of others that were part and would not have happened without them. Our family liaisons, our equity and learning staff, our directors. There it was a team effort, really. So I don't know. Just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that there was a whole lot of people behind that success. So thank you very much. So
Yes, thank you.
all right.
I'll talk about that in a second, but I wanted to share with you a wonderful surprise visit that we had from an organization called Inspire Through Flowers. And it's a nonprofit that came to our building here to donate flowers. They made 38 bouquets, and it's an organization done with all volunteer staff. And they donated flowers to Frost, Whitman, Kilmer, more to come. They gave out 38 bouquets here, and it just created a lot of joy and brightness in our office today. There's more pictures there. And then, as Mike and Debbie referred to, we also, last Friday, March 15th, we hosted our first community resource fair in London, and we had 48 vendors who were there. So here's some pictures. Mostly nonprofit resource organizations. We had Organic Life was there. They gave out some food. We had Zumba. We had games and food and cookies and water for kids. The Girl Scouts were there, and this was a wonderfully successful event. We probably had 200 families there. And it went from 5 till 8 p.m. and we sent out surveys, and we're getting just wonderful feedback. So we're talking about doing it again, maybe a different day, maybe outside, maybe a different time of the year. But this was a pilot program, and it went very well. Any questions?
I had a couple. So I've heard the flower program about it before coming to some of our schools. How are those schools selected? Like, who helps work on that?
So the organization picks schools in our district, and she's reaching out to every school. She wants to now do Field and Tarkington. So I am helping her reach out to those.
Awesome.
They started during the pandemic, and they actually started giving flowers to nurses in hospitals because they felt that they were the ones that really needed that sort of support and recognition, and it just grew from there. And they get flowers donated from flower shops. They put them together on Wednesdays, and then they deliver them on Thursdays. And they're always looking for monetary donations or volunteering time on Thursdays or Wednesdays to help assemble the bouquets and then deliver them. And it really just brightened up everyone's day today.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
they're lovely people.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
So just briefly, I wanted to report back to the board that in February, we had our quadrennial, or every 4-year compliance audit through the Regional Office of Education, North Cook. And I'm pleased to report that we are fully recognized. All of our schools are fully recognized. And what that means is that we're meeting all the mandates that the state lays out. So, when the bloodborne pathogens training and the, making sure that this policy is in place and that, record is full. And so, so I just wanted to thank and compliment the staff in Leticia, starting as she coordinated the whole thing, was pulling all these pieces of information together. Our HR staff, our support staff at the district level, our school secretaries, you name it, they all had to get stuff and bring it over so that Leticia could upload those pieces of evidence. And so our auditors, it's supposed to be a 3-day audit. They were out of here in 4 hours, right? Yeah. Wow. So, yeah. So, Leticia was definitely the team captain, but it was a big team that got everything together. So now we can breathe for another 4 years, and they'll come back and do it again. So 3 years, is it 3 years? It's every 4 years, okay. I thought it was 5, so when we came up this year, I went, no, 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 because we did it 4 years ago. Anyway, regardless. So again, thank you very much, and congratulations to the district on being fully recognized.
Thank you much. The next session is a board discussion. We have one item, the discussion regarding classroom space concerns at Kilmer for the 24-25 school year.
Yes, so we have we put together a bit of a slide deck that we can kind of utilize as we go through the discussion. And again, this is something that we wanted to start having the conversation about tonight at the board level. It's something that we've been having a conversation internally and with the leadership at Kilmer for the last, well, really since probably mid-fall, and we've continued to see the increase in enrollment that has come through. So, please interject, ask questions, as we kind of go through. But to just kind of give some current conditions. So if you look back to the beginning of the 22-23 school year, the total enrollment at Kilmer was 487. Enrollment at the end of the last school year had gone to 510. The enrollment at the beginning of the current school year was at 545. As of yesterday, the current enrollment at Kilmer is 573. So in the span of 1.5 school years, there have been almost 100 new students that have entered Kilmer. In the next school year, we are projecting a need for 28 total classroom sections. Now that means classrooms that have our regular education, our EL sheltered, our Russian bilingual program, and our Spanish bilingual program. And that's up from 25 sections that we had this year. And that doesn't include, those 28 classrooms don't include the specials and the other kind of ancillary, learning spaces that we need. Right now, art is currently on a cart. Without intervention at all next year, both art and music would need to be on a cart. And our interventionists and resource teachers would not have a dedicated space for themselves or to be able to work with their students. So in essence, we would be having, pull-out services that were being done, and to some extent that's happening now, depending on what's going on in the building. But those services being done in hallway or a part of the multipurpose room, it is tight over there. Absolutely, and it's also an issue of it's difficult to address class size issues when we don't have any additional space and no real options. Like if we needed to split a section, there's no place to put it, right? So we need to do something, and it's something that we need to make sure we're ready to do for next year. So what are our goals? Number one is to alleviate the projected classroom space shortfall. Number two is to maintain our current Russian bilingual and Spanish bilingual classrooms. Number four, to ensure that Kilmer area resident students who are currently enrolled at Kilmer are able to stay at Kilmer. We want to be able to restore art to a dedicated classroom. We want to be able to keep music in a dedicated classroom. We want to make sure that our interventionists and resource staff have a dedicated classroom space, which they share right now, but to be able to continue that and have a place for them to be able to work with their students. And we want to have some ability to ease class size pressures where we are able to and where it's appropriate to do so. Again, maintaining alignment to the district's class size guidelines. So as we have been looking at solutions, and these solution options have really crystallized in the last couple of weeks as we've really started planning and sectioning for next year. They're really the only way to get at this is the fact that we need additional classroom space one way or the other, and a modular classroom building is something that we believe is the time has come to move forward with placement of one of those at Kilmer. Now, what we're looking at is a modular classroom building that would have 4 classrooms in it. From a footprint perspective, Michael, it's 70 by
70 by 70.
70 by 70.
And the classrooms would be 4 750 square foot classrooms, which are in line with our typical classroom size.
Right. Now, that is a structure that would be placed adjacent to the school. It isn't a structure that we can put right up on the school because there has to be 35 feet of clearance between the 2 buildings. It certainly presents some site complications or challenges, not really complications, but challenges in terms of where we place it. One of the things that it's really important to us is to be able to place it in a location that minimizes the distance between the main building and the modular building, and also in a place that is easy for us to secure, that we can have cameras and lock, door lock systems, and this might be one of the more challenging things to try and noodle through, but to be able to have some kind of covered throughway to protect from the elements as kids and staff are going back and forth between the main building and the modular building. Really, quite frankly, if we don't move in that direction, there are no real solutions in the interior of Kilmer as it exists right now. There is just not a tenable situation to not expand the footprint. And clearly, we're not in a position to, build permanent classrooms, in the next 18 weeks. It's something we might have to talk about in various areas over the next couple of years, but it's not something that we're able to do now. Now, adding the 4 classroom modular building gets us a good portion of the way. It's still going to be tight, right? It gets us a good portion of the way there in meeting our goals. We also, one of the things that we've been looking at is how can we find ways to, in those areas, which include, a good example is our 3rd grade Russian bilingual. There's 27 students in that classroom, and it is tight in there. And then other areas, there's some, we're still pretty close to the district guidelines, but nonetheless, it's tight. So to try and figure out a way that we can ease some of the classroom, class size pressure in those points, Beatrice and I have been, and Anya have been looking at various numbers, and we do currently have a number of students that live in the field attendance zone, but they are in the Russian bilingual program and attending Kilmer. About 19, is that right? 19. 18, okay. And they're spread out across grade levels, right? So, but one of the things, we also have students that are at Poe who live in the Riley attendance area and are in the Poe Russian bilingual program, and we're concerned about the numbers at the Poe Russian bilingual program as well. So in looking at how we might be able to get at this, we're seriously investigating opening up a 3rd Russian bilingual site at Field, which would give us the opportunity to recall the 18 current students that are at Kilmer that are in the Russian bilingual program to their home school. And then we would look at the students that are live in the Riley attendance area that are attending Poe as to whether or not those are students that we could move into the new site at Field, gets them into the London attendance zone, which is where they are, And as far as distance between Poe and Riley and Field, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So we're not going to be creating a situation where those children are going to be on buses for longer than they already are. What that will do, it will not, particularly at Kilmer, it won't result in any sections dropping because the numbers are spread out. However, it will help draw down and get some level of ability to ease, those hot spots like that. Again, that 27 third grade Russian bilingual, we thought how many kids would draw off of that?
That it would drop to about 23.
Yeah, right. So that's one, obvious thing that we are absolutely seriously looking at and running numbers. And again, this is something that shifts, as facts on the ground change, but, and that's why we're bringing it for discussion tonight and not asking for you to make any kind of decisions. The decisions we would be asking for would be in April, after we've had an opportunity to really vet and work with the Village of Buffalo Grove and make sure, there's a lot of moving pieces in all of this to try and make sure that we get it as right as we can. The other thing that we do need to take a look at, and we never like to do this at all, but I think we are at the point, I think we're going to need to cap enrollment at Kilmer. And what I mean by that is that as we take a look at grade levels and also within those grade levels, the different program lines, that we make a determination of what the cap, what an enrollment cap is for those areas, and any new if we go over the cap, any new enrollments at Kilmer would need to attend school in another District 21 school. When we are looking at, again, putting the modular classrooms out there does not give us the ability to pop open new sections. So if the numbers continue to increase, we're pretty much right back to the kind of situation that we're in now. Again, this is not good, right? This is not something that we are really pleased with having as an option. And quite frankly, my hope is that we don't hit any cap in particular, but we might. But it is not a sustainable situation, particularly as we're looking at several different programs running in the same space. The footprint of those programs is different. We very likely would not be having this conversation if we didn't have multiple programs that we have to have. Those kids need to have those programs. Anytime you're adding programming in, takes up space, right? So even though, if you look at our total district enrollment of about 6,200 students, back in the day, it was over 7,000, and I think Bill and I were talking earlier today, and it was right about 7,000 the last time, 20-some years ago, when the district looked at redistricting. Just under. In any event, we're at 6,200. However, our space needs are so much more because of the needed programs that we are operating. So I can't go too deeply into like what the caps would be and where those children would attend. That's a lot of we really have to take a look at numbers in other schools, what their class size looks like. We don't want to create additional issues with class size, because we have other buildings that are tight on space too. Tarkington, Longfellow, Poe, we've got other buildings that are tight on space. So we need to be, we need to look at this very carefully. But I think that if we do the modular, we look at opening up the third Russian bilingual program at Field, and we put enrollment caps in place, that we will achieve what we're seeking to achieve, which again is to alleviate the projected classroom space shortfall, to maintain the current bilingual programs that are there, to ensure that Kilmer area resident students that are already there can stay there, right? That's the key. Yes, it might be that students that are living in the Kilmer area that are new to us may not attend there if we hit a cap, but at least the kids that are there now stay there. That's extremely important to us. You know, and we really want to do anything we can to make sure that that happens. And then, of course, all of the others. So these are really short-term solutions. We are going to need to look at longer-term solutions, and when I say longer term, I mean 2020, you know, 25 and beyond. We really do not want to utilize modular classrooms for more than 2 school years. Quite frankly, neither does the Village of Buffalo Grove, right? These are not, you know, real ideal types of structures to be having on you know, in the villages. And they're not the only ones. I mean, there are other districts, you know, our colleagues in District 62 have been working through this with Des Plaines and their, you know, influx of newcomers. And so it's you know, it's something that is not atypical for a village to really kind of say, well, okay, we can use them for a little while, but it can't be a permanent solution, right? So we are going to need to take time to study and propose longer term solutions, including but not limited to, and I know this is where it gets to start being, you know, somewhat controversial and emotional, and it can get fairly heated, but we are going to have to take a look at things like, you know, are there additional changes in programming placement across the district? Are there options for us to be able to get creative with utilizing additional space or creating additional space that will be able to you know, accommodate some of those additional you know, those programs? And the one that tends to give people like me gray hair and heartburn is the potential of reviewing and maybe needing to revise our attendance boundaries. You know, again, the last time that the district did this was early 2000s.
Yeah.
And not without controversy. I don't think there has ever been a redistricting in the history of public school redistricting that hasn't been controversial. But there's also ways to do it that are as minimal impactful as possible, fair, open, transparent, and quite frankly, probably nobody walking away with what they want, which is probably indicative of a fairly decent way to get at it, right? So that would be something that there would be an extremely well thought out and facilitated, and not by me, process that we would undergo as we were investigating any potential boundary changes, sensitive to all of the different, you know, dynamics that exist. That is a commitment that I can make to you. I can't make the commitment that people are necessarily going to be happy and or that we come up with a solution out of that, but I can guarantee it will be open, honest, transparent, equity-minded, and as fair as humanly possible. So, so in any event, that is kind of where we are. I did, and these are sample images, they're not the units, but I did go and grab a couple of images of what the modular classrooms look like. And I got to tell you that they're really quite nice. Inside, it's you know, they're heated, they're cooled. There's, you know, there's good lighting. They really are. I was talking to a colleague of mine in another district and that has mobiles and or modular classrooms, And they kind of are popular. You know, some of the teachers like wrestle over them because it's particularly in an older building. Of course, we've spent a lot of time renovating our classrooms and things of that nature. So I'm going to say we're a better foot forward there than maybe some others, but they're nice, right? So in any event, and Michael, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the conversations you're having with the modular class vendors.
So one thing I don't know that we mentioned is they do have restrooms, so that is an important fact.
Good point,
because
yes.
you can have them with or without. Obviously, if we're gonna have classes out there, we want to do that. Much to what Mike said, there actually are junior colleges, community colleges that are moving towards these as permanent structures because they have elevated the construction of them and the look of them. And Mike's right, from what I've heard from colleagues, there are people that like them, they're more independent, but they are much nicer than they used to be. And so now they have new flooring, they have new lighting, the 2-unit and the 4-unit boat that we've looked at are refurbished and would have brand new facilities in them. So it is not a step down, it is still a quality classroom. And, you know, for art, music, the other programs, I think it would be a really good location so that we don't have to make some of the changes that we dreaded making.
On that point, I did, you know, we touched on a couple of these things, but just the modular classroom building, just issues to be cognizant of and consider. Obviously, the first one is the placement on the school site. The most likely location, and Michael, jump in here if I'm going off the rail here. The most likely location is south of the main building, potentially a little southwest, but it will probably take up a portion of the basketball courts that are out there right now, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Again, because it's a 4-classroom structure and 70 by 70, we don't think there's going to be enough ability to not take up portion of those basketball courts. But, you know, it also gives us a pretty good line into the doors that lead into the library wing of the main building. And if we were try and place it on another side or behind, we would run into problems with fire and emergency access, as well as we would lose staff parking. And that's, you know, if you're on a good day, you can find 1 or 2 open spaces over there when we're running. So that would be a problem. Obviously, site safety and security are things that we would need to, you know, be addressing: cameras, door access controls, communications, emergency services, access to the sites. We need to. That's a conversation that Michael is having with the village to really understand what access points. Do they need 360-degree access? And so that might, if they do, and depending on the site, might require us to get pretty creative with how we find that cover to be able to you know, have some weather protection going back and forth, or we might need to do some additional paving, give up some green space, some additional paving, so that there's an access road that they can utilize. So we're going to have to figure all those things out. Not the least of which also is making sure that we're meeting the zoning requirements of the Village of Buffalo Grove. I will tell you that the initial conversations that we've had with the staff over there, they get it, right? So, you know, they want to work with us to get what we need to get done. As Michael alluded to, where I'm at in terms of classroom assignments out there is I do not look to put permanent classroom, like, so 4th grade out there or 5th grade out there. We would be placing, I would be seeking to place art and music, and also that would be an area for our interventionists and resource folks, because then everybody is utilizing that space, and we're not marooning a specific grade or group of kids out of the building. I'm sure there can be discussion about the pros and cons in that, but that's where I'm at. That's what I'm leaning towards. That's pretty important to me. So that's what we have for you. You know, I think that there are some good options on the table. We really don't have the option of not doing anything. We really don't. But I think we're a very complicated issue. I think we're bringing some workable, not perfect, doesn't solve every problem, but workable solutions. So I'll entertain any questions or comments or concerns.
Okay, I'll just go around the table and get everybody. So we'll start with Bill.
Well, thank you for spending the time with me this afternoon, and you highlighted one of my things that I wanted to bring forward, which is the numbers in our district and why things have changed. I also asked you whether or not we have open classrooms anywhere else in the district. And if you want to address that moment, I'm sure it's going to be no.
Well, it's not no. I mean, we
Close.
do. It's close to no, right? There are no available rooms at Tarkington. There are no unused, or very few, actually, I don't think there's any unused spaces at Longfellow, correct? Yeah. Yeah. And their numbers are going up too. Bottom line is that we do have some classroom space that is open at Whitman. Because we are making some changes to preschool placement, we'll have some additional spaces at Frost, but not many. So it's a smattering and really nothing that would meet our needs in being able to manage enrollment at Kilmer.
And there's no reason to believe that this influx is ending shortly.
I wouldn't predict that.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the next couple of years, may it even out? Perhaps. But in the short term, nope. I think this is going to continue.
And is there a possibility to have an informational meeting for the Kilmer parents? Because this is going to go through the neighborhood like wildfire.
Sure.
So that they have accurate information as opposed to Facebook information out there?
Yes. So I will work with Mrs. McBride to schedule something for the early to mid part of April, before the April board meeting, which is April 18th. So we'll put together an evening that we can go through this. Mrs. McBride is going to send a message to parents tomorrow in which, we'll have a link to this in case, they want to actually, watch it or, look at the slide deck. And then obviously, as questions come, we'll answer them and try to address things. We can also, through our Facebook page, we can get this slide deck and maybe a synopsis that can be posted as well.
And even perhaps some FAQs as they come up.
Yes, yeah. It's going to take us a little while to, because again, we're still looking at things. So, we want to be careful to make sure that we're not painting ourselves into a corner with specifics, because we need to be able to make determinations as the information comes together. So,
Thank you.
Arlen?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks for spending time with me as well today on the phone at some length going over all of this. Having sat with Phil,
Oh, yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Stacy, the last time around, and the fiasco that ensued as a result of the first efforts to redistrict. This is a tough one. We don't know when it's going to end. We don't know if it's going to grow. We do know that birth rates, as you and I talked about, are down, but that's not necessarily what's driving this. And so what the decisions we make are going to be really tough ones, both from a financial point of view, because we're going to insist on financial discretion in what we do because of the taxpayers, but in addition, we got to be right by the kids.
yes.
And I don't know, I was surprised to hear that we were in such a state of tightness. How we proceed without all the facts that we know we would need to make the tough decisions, because I don't know that we can get all the facts where we will be in 2 years, 4 years, or 5 years.
I mean, I'm looking for the best crystal ball that I can find, but,
Correct.
haven't
Correct.
quite gotten it yet, yeah.
So I would hope that we will spend a great deal of time, because as you know, I've always been opposed to modular classrooms. It's just not something I want, and I know nobody here wants that. but we're doing what we have to do today to deal with today's issues. And I get that, and I support that. But I would hope that we would immediately start trying to assess where we go from here.
That is already happening. And I can tell you that once we are able to determine what our short-term, actions are going to be, we will almost immediately be flipping over into those long-term conversations. More than we already are, because we are having those long-term conversations as well.
Thanks for everybody's hard work on this one. I know it's not easy on anybody, especially because we just can't assess the facts the way we'd like to. So we'll look forward to talking more about it.
In addition to things being as tight as at Kilmer, and I am a fall nerd. I am one of those nerds that looks at fall housing numbers and trends and all that kind of stuff. So this did not catch me very off guard, although it's interesting to see the change in demographics at a school like Field that was busting at the seams.
It was a bubble group that went through a couple of years ago.
Right,
Yep.
and so has their enrollment stabilized? I know Frost was also.
Significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're back in the 400s. Yeah, a couple of years ago, they were at, I think, 600.
Well, and that,
But
and
they've
that's,
significantly come back.
and that's a testament to, I think, sort of where we have circled back around from 20 years ago, which is the population stabilized as far as staying in one place in one time for a long time, but the population has become, again, very transient as it was 20 some odd years ago when we addressed the boundary change issue a number of years ago. And I'll be very transparent. That process, part of it was, the demographics of the district are far more complicated today than they were back in the day when those conversations happened, and the laws haven't changed much as far as equity and education, but our demographics are particularly complicated when it comes to equal educational opportunity laws. And so I agree with Arlen to really look at, both short-term and long-term solutions. But I will tell you, in the northwest suburbs, I believe the population we will continue to accept and greet people from all over the world in this area of Illinois for the 5 years foreseeable future, because we are very welcoming in this part of the state. And this is, there's what people are looking for, which is family and work. And so I think if we can, my only ask would really to continue to keep our municipalities up to date on what's going on in our district as far as enrollment trends are concerned.
Yeah.
Because I think that they see a lot of things, on their end, we see things on our end, but I do think it's going to be a very interesting journey. But I think we have to do whatever we can to both stabilize things and to look for a more long-term solution. Are there any other schools that are really tight? I mean,
Tarkington is tight.
yeah, well, you can feel it when you go in there.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
again, that is driven in large part by that we consolidated, preschool, and, to that site, and then also next year, we'll be consolidating additional at Whitman to try and, so yes, that is a concern. We have some options, like if things and targeted enrollment has been stable, so as we're looking at sections needs for next year, we're not seeing any additional section needs. Is that right? Yeah, at Tarkington?
He's actually down
Yeah.
a section.
Okay, all right. So we've got options there.
Okay.
Longfellow it does see, particularly in some of our young friends, see some bigger groups, but again, there's options. Again, currently the only school that has anything on a cart, art or otherwise, is Kilmer. Everybody else has a home. Right.
But that,
So-
yeah, I mean, and I remember a couple years ago, Field was,
Yes.
they were doing
They were on
art in the
carts.
multi,
Yep.
yeah, I mean,
Yep.
it was bad.
Yep.
So,
Right. So we've got options in other locations, and we'll continue to monitor. But I think the Kilmer area, the Poe area, potentially, Field, depending on, I think those are likely, Longfellow maybe, those are likely to be the areas where we're going to see more influx, at least in the short term. And I think it's because the population, that's where their family is, and that's where their community is, and so they're locating to those areas, right?
100%. No, I think you gotta keep on with all the options we have, and this is gonna be a work in progress, but I support, whatever we need to do to push forward to make it, for current Kilmer students to be able to stay at Kilmer and move some of those other programs around. This doesn't solve the problem, but it buys you, I think, some time to figure out a more long-term solution. Thank you.
Phil?
There's no question that the modular plan is probably the only realistic plan for the coming year, maybe for the next 2 years. The only thing that I would suggest is that, with 800 or 900 students less now than we had at our height when we were at 7,000 or 7,100, is the amount of programming, special programming, designated programming that we didn't have back then. So obviously, in addition to a demographic study, which probably is not really the most important thing right now, but just figuring out where our programming needs are going to be, going out 5-7 years if we can. I would not take adding space, permanent space, to the sites that we designate as a district for various programs. We have money. We have the ability to do that if we think that that is the most cost-efficient way, at least difficult in terms of emotional as well as physical needs of the students/parents. So I would not take that off the table. I would put that far ahead of redistricting.
Yeah, we are having internal conversations of that nature, and it is our intention to bring those internal conversations maybe a little bit more external in the coming weeks and months.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Dagmara?
And no questions. I thought your presentation today was really comprehensive and clear that you and the team are looking at this from all angles. And I think, we obviously all appreciate that. And I know the community listening, who has a lot of questions and concerns at Kilmer about this, appreciates it as well. And I'm happy that there's an opportunity in a few weeks for them to be able to ask questions and share their feedback. Thank you.
Jessica?
Yeah, again, no real questions. Thank you for sort of heading that off. And I don't want to belabor points that were already made, but just to raise the concerns that I've noted. Just, I don't know what your ability is to predict future enrollment numbers, even for the next 2-3 years, whether you think we'll be seeing increases like we've been seeing, stasis, or somewhere in the middle. And that raises the question for me, like, honestly, is this modular size building enough? I know that you've identified it as alleviating the strain, but I mean, I'm not asking you to reconsider your position, but this is the thoughts going through through my head. I mean, obviously, I think as Phil and others have said, no one sets out thinking, let's do modular classrooms. As lovely as they are, it's just not
ideal.
The aesthetic that we want for our district, but they're safe, they're reliable. This is where we are. And then as I've raised in other issues, obviously my concern is making sure that the parents and the community are notified early and often, trying to minimize any surprises. An FAQ ongoing document, I think, often gives people some comfort, even if it's not, as comprehensive as they would like. And just making sure the community is aware consistently of the plan, the duration, all the nuts and bolts, all the fringe issues. I think most of our community is understanding that we make decisions that we believe are in the best interest of the students and their families here in our community. And even when they're not, quote unquote, ideal, we want to make sure we're providing the services for the kids. I do like your idea of doing the art and music and the interventions in there so that like everyone really kind of has a chance to cycle through the program. I think from an equity standpoint, that was well thought out, so thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, my first concerns were who was going to be out there, because yes, I did not want anyone felt like they were isolated. The fact that it's, hopefully we have a covered walkway between, something to prevent, we get rain and snow around here.
We do, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
tomorrow.
right. Yeah, we're likely gonna need to get kind of creative with that, but we'll vet every option out. I kind of made a bit of a joke in a meeting this morning. Remember ET? With the flexible, like, little tunnel thing, that, I don't know.
Right.
We could, yeah.
Abby?
Yeah.
One quick thing, just, in my conversation with Mike today, one suggestion I made, and for us to think about as we do planning, the committee of the whole meeting worked so well earlier. This would be a great topic, once we get past the short term of this, to have a long-term discussion.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
In a setting like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, agreed. I should also note that when we were going around the district in tightness, Twain is also tight, very much so. I, thank you, Beatrice, for reminding me of that. You always forget one thing.
And they have
If not multiple.
some very special programs over
They do,
there.
absolutely, yeah, yeah, our STC program and, and bilingual programs, and, so.
Right. It's been obvious with just about everyone has talked to you, so this is very well thought through. It's not a knee-jerk reaction that this is the first thing we want to do.
Yeah, so we'll keep, crystallizing and just, having discussions and, identifying roadblocks and trying to move those out of the way. Michael has already issued a letter of intent to the vendor so that we have a modular classroom on hold for us, or a structure on hold for us. And it's really just figuring it out to the greatest extent that we can. So the intention here is then to bring a final plan for you to consider and hopefully approve at your April meeting, and then we move forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
Deb, just one, Mike, you mentioned this before, but maybe we need to reiterate it, that what has changed over the last 30 years? The type of programming that we have to offer
Yes.
today.
Yes.
is so different than it was 30 years ago,
Right.
which is why we have the spread of programming and the limited classrooms, even though we have less students.
Well,
And you said it, but
not-
I think not everybody understands that.
Well, but not for nothing, the little humans in our classrooms are different than they were 30
Well,
years
yeah,
ago.
absolutely.
And we know a lot more about
Well, right.
those things too. So, it's not just programming, it's also best practice.
It's a reason for it, though, to react to the students that we have.
I mean, I often have gotten into those conversations with my mother, with like, well, in our day, we had 45 kids in the classroom. You also had a nun who was ruling with an iron fist, okay? That's not what's happening here, so, yeah.
Dr. Conley, if I could just add one more
Absolutely.
thing that I don't know got quite highlighted. With the change of population at Kilmer, what we see happening is the Spanish-speaking population is declining. So for example, in kindergarten this year, we have the lowest number that we've seen in quite some time. So if that pattern continues, those cohorts are going to eventually roll possibly out. That's a good point. So that's just something else I just wanted to highlight. And it's one of the things that we're looking at for the incoming kindergartners, of whether or not we would even have a full section, or whether we would be looking at some other kind of combination, because that population is declining.
And when we did the boundary change 20 some odd years ago, the school most affected for Spanish-speaking population going from 0 to 24% was Kilmer, because of one particular neighborhood. Now that is turning over from a predominantly Spanish-speaking neighborhood, where a lot of our Russian and Polish and Ukraine friends are now moving in to that particular section. That flipped Kilmer when we did the boundary change many years ago. So the demographics of those neighborhoods have changed incredibly, but you have to remember, and I know Bill remembers, Arlen remembers, and Phil remembers, the greatest impact to the bilingual program when the boundary change happened was Kilmer literally went from 0 to 24% and then 47% in the second year because of that one particular section that went from Field to Kilmer. So those puzzle pieces change as neighborhoods change over, and specifically those neighborhoods that are townhouses or apartments who tend to have more transient populations anyway. So I think as towns change and large sections of neighborhood change, that, I mean, to Beatrice's point, that's exactly what you're gonna see, which is the flip in the need. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have now reached the public comment section of our meeting. The board will allow any individual to share a public comment for up to 3 minutes. Such comments should not include the discussion of personnel matters, which should be brought directly to the attention of the appropriate school official. During public comment, the board and administration listen to comments but may not respond to the public. Leticia, have we received anything? No, we have not. Mike Frantini, have we received anything? No, we haven't. And Cass?
No.
Nothing? Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. This month, we received 3 Freedom of Information requests. Conference and travel expenses for the board to approve are in the amount of $510, which include registration fees for the attendance of 3 board members at the 2024 EdRed Legislative Dinner on January 29th, and registration fees for the attendance of 5 board members to the IASB North Division meeting on February 28th. Phil, did you have an opportunity to review the financials?
I did, and actually the latest one, which was today, yesterday, I had no questions on.
Ooh,
So maybe this month there's maybe a total of 3 or 4 questions that they're helping me with, so.
awesome,
Everything was fine, everything was fine.
awesome, thank you. Does anyone need anything pulled? I don't think so. Okay, may I please get a motion to approve the
So
consent
moved.
agenda?
Second.
Roll call?
Bill,
Aye.
Arlen,
Aye.
Stacy,
Yes.
Phil, Dagmara,
Yes.
I vote yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The next section on the agenda is new business. The first item is approval of EAB partnership agreement.
Just very briefly, EAB is a nonprofit educational research and professional development organization that we started having conversations with in the fall after having had conversations with Scott Rowe, who's the new superintendent in 214, who has worked with EAB in his former district, has brought EAB into 214. River Trails is also a member of EAB. And it's really kind of an accessible think tank for us. So, it is an area where we can, gain a lot of access to education research, consultants, and then also, in many ways, playbooks that we can utilize to tackle, various concerns, issues, or opportunities. So, for instance, and the examples of this are in your packet. They have a cooperative around addressing around addressing absence, chronic absence, principal development, climate culture, literacy learning. I mean, there's all kinds of different, and our partnership gives us access to all of it. So it's not this, kind of piecemeal, you have to choose this or choose that. It's whatever we want to do with them, and either with them individually or by coming together as cohorts with other districts that are part of those activities as well. So we think it's going to be a very good addition to our arsenal of school improvement efforts, and I would ask that you approve it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions regarding?
No, I'll just say I read over the materials, talked with Mike about it today. It looks pretty impressive, and I think it'd be a good format, a good overview for our directions, give it structure that we will benefit from. So I would make the motion, and we can discuss it.
Bill, you have something?
First of all, I think it does hit a lot of the things that we've been looking to improve, so I think that's a great thing. I just have a question for Mike Heise. How would we evaluate the success of bringing this in? Is there any sort of format for doing that?
Multiple. I mean, as we see chronic absence improving, you know, as we're implementing that playbook, that would be a big piece of data that would allow us to you know, determine if those were successful. You know, as we're looking at, you know, principal development and instructional leadership, as we continue to see our instruction in Tier 1 and you know, improve and strengthen as a result of principal leadership, you know, that would be another area to be able to point to. Culture and climate, you know, as we have survey results and take a look at you know, positive gains in those types of things. So it really is going to be dependent on what it is we're doing and being able to evaluate that, you know, the implementation of those things. And if we can tie those back to work that we're doing with EAB, by extension, it's giving us evidence that it is meeting the mark.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else?
The dollar amount, so it's a 3-year partnership agreement. The dollar amount for the first year is, yes, 46.5. And then there's a percentage, you know, kind of cost of doing business increase from year 2 to 3. So again, in year 2, it is 48.7, and in year 3, it's 51.1.
And we're actually able to use some of the ESSER 3 dollars that we had left to pay for the first year. So that actually is a plus on that non-reoccurring cost, anything that's sustainable. So to be able to use those is a plus.
Okay, Jessica?
Just to piggyback on Bill's question from an accountability standpoint, if we could get, you know, a report back maybe in a year of what resources we've used, you know, how sustainable we think the results are, any changes we've seen, so that, you know, we can, you know, be assured that our money is being well spent.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And I believe we had a motion from Arlen.
Seconded?
Arlen?
Aye.
Stacy? Yes. Phil? Dagmara?
Yes.
I vote yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the Gill Center Technology and Network Office renovation bids.
So this is the final phase of the transfer of administration from Gill to here to Hawthorne, and then the final space over at Gill. When we budgeted, remember, the cost to renovate Gill to what we needed it to be would have been over $21 million. The total cost for Hawthorne was projected to be around $2 million, and the tech center around $500,000. We will come in at about $1.7 million all in, instead of 2.5 for the total renovations for the administration side. So this will give them a modern, up-to-date facility, from their shop that they already have to meeting center to offices, and complete that circle around the district so that we have spaces that are appropriate for administration. This building, obviously having the professional development and the soon-to-open clinic, was the biggest, you know, recoupment of those dollars. So I recommend this to be approved. This has both the cost for the tech center and the construction management fees in it.
Do we have any questions?
The only question, the 28% CM fee, is that fairly common of what we've been paying over the years for projects?
28.
Well, the 91,000 out of 326.
So their fee is 5.5%, and then there are fixed costs and there are reimbursables. The reimbursables are worst case scenario for dumpsters, for different utilities. We usually don't even hit 30% of those. So this is a worst case percent cost, yeah. Sorry, I was.
No problem.
And it is a sliding scale based upon size of project. So this being a smaller project, it is going to appear higher than when you look at a building like this or our summer construction.
I would so move it.
So are we still planning to take down the front of the old Guild building? Is that still part of our plan? We talked about that at great length early on.
one of the things that we've kind of also been dealing with is storage space and lack thereof. And so one of the scenarios that we're looking at is, as we kind of look at that area of land, there's not a really good use for it, as a kind of a green space, whatever the case may be. We also, as Michael and his team have really been researching how to, kind of get at our storage needs, because we got stuff, and the buildings are always like, okay, let me pack this closet until there's no ability to put anything else in it. But storage space availability is not great and hugely expensive. So, Michael, you want to talk about what you guys are looking at?
Creating storage space.
Now, that's an innovative,
No, so we believe there could be somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 square feet of storage space there, which, as we're about to sign a short-term lease on some storage space for things that we need to get stored, the prices in the area are hugely expensive. And our construction managers have worked with us to give us a very good deal on about 7,500 square feet of storage space nearby, so that we can, for the time being, do that. We did this a couple summers ago when we needed short-term space. So to go ahead, build a ramp down into what is now the basement level of Gill, take out some of the second floor so that we can put higher shelves and get a forklift down there. We believe it would be advantageous for the unused furniture, for some of the rotating supplies, because we do have a department that, in the operations side, that has multiple trucks to move things to and from. So we do think storage becomes the best option for that property. And saves a lot of money.
asbestos aside, in terms of what we have to deal with in the construction.
Gill doesn't have a ton of asbestos. Remember, we replaced the carpet there years ago, so that's been remediated. We wouldn't really be touching behind the walls, because we can go ahead and around the cinder block, build the different areas we want, and then the second floor area, which is kind of the old superintendent's area. So we don't think that there's a whole lot of abatement or remediation over there. It's really just demo and then making it cleared out. There's no walls to build, there's no plumbing to do. It's just making sure it's temperature controlled, so anything that's there is properly cared for.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
May I please get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Stacy?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Dagmara?
Yes.
I vote yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And the following item is the approval of contract for interior lighting replacement at Cooper.
So this is exciting because, as you know, Cooper is the last building to have its interior lighting still needed for. And so we had done a performance contract for London's lighting a couple of years back. That same company did boilers at Twain. So what we did when we knew that we were kind of tapped out in our architects and our construction managers was approach a performance company, the one that we used, to see if we could finish off Cooper, so that checks a box off of the modernization of the district as far as interior lighting goes. We still have a couple buildings that have exterior lighting needs, but the interior will be complete when Cooper is done. The company can work second shift. We think they may even be able to get it done, if not by the end of this school year in May. It'll be done by the time students return in the fall. So we recommend this.
And as you know, Cooper is so dark. Those hallways are just dim. So, it'll be literally night and day.
It will be. It will be.
Okay. May I please get a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Jessica?
Bill?
Aye.
Dagmara?
Yes.
I vote yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
Stacy?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item under new business, the approval of an intergovernmental agreement and real estate contract with the Village of Wheeling for flood control and retention project at Twain.
As we talked about a number of months ago now, this is the last project the Village of Wheeling has to complete to finish off its drainage program within the village. Twain is hit terribly hard by the residents and the school by any flooding, any water that comes by. And this is the fourth leg of the four to go ahead and make the drainage complete. What this is for the public is that the area that is, and I'm terrible with direction, but I believe north of the playground is totally unusable by the district or anybody else really unless you build a massive drainage component underneath it. That's exactly what they're going to do. So they have a company that is going to come in and do all the work. For that, the village gives them the rights to the stormwater credits, but they need to go ahead and do that on land that they own. We would not be the owner of that property. So being that there's not a huge fair market value for that property, what we had asked for is something we talked about with Twain and is actually an idea that we'd like to move forward at a number of other buildings, which is to build a turf field so that the students have another outlet at recess that they can use year-round. So they would have the turf field, which is going to be a little over 200 feet by 75 feet. They'll have the blacktop and they'll have the playground. And Twain next year is slated for their revamp on playground as well, which the current plan would be to add on to the playground from a few years ago so that, as we've done in many buildings, go to one playground. It tightens up supervision, keeps the kids in the same general area, but the turf field, we believe, will be a game changer for social emotional behaviors because, again, there are times that you're limited to the blacktop and the playground only, and we'll be able to clear the turf field so that during the winter they can play soccer, football, all the games that they play now, but are limited to when the conditions are dry. So we believe that this is not only good for our students and the community, obviously, of the school, but based upon what it does for the drainage of the area, this will be a game changer for those houses.
Stacy?
So since you mentioned it, the village will get the stormwater credit from that property. Is there a stormwater credit on that property? What is there?
So the village sells their credit
Yeah, I
to
know.
the company. So I don't know, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the village is getting out of the deal. I was responsible for making sure that the district got the best deal.
Yeah, and at the price point you did, I'm just curious, they're selling that, they're selling that credit, I would assume, to that company. Is that how that works?
They are selling the credit to the company, but the company is taking on all of the improvement to that property. So the underwater drainage, the landscaping that's going to go on the property, the fence that'll go around it. So I don't know what that's worth. I would assume over the years it has a nice price tag to it. But I don't know what their agreement is on the return on that at some point.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Deb, as we discussed at our workshop, I think it's a win-win. I think it's a win for the district to be able to have a year-round playground, and I think it's a win for the village to be able to drain off the water and improve the flooding situation there. So I think it's a no-lose for us.
Bill?
Partly being a good neighbor, but just like the retention area will be fenced off, is what you say, so our students.
Yes, they'll fence it off.
Right, so this is nothing of a safety concern for our students.
Correct.
And the walking path, I assume that they're talking about would be then on the outside of that fencing and.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
And they'll fully landscape the interior basin. And I think at the closed session, when we talked about the sale of the property, we had some pictures of prior work the company's done.
Okay.
I think it's a real important relationship building with the village of Wheeling. And it serves both purposes, so.
Okay. May I get a motion then?
So moved.
Second.
Jessica?
Dagmara?
Yes.
I vote yes. Debbie?
Yes?
Bill?
Aye.
Harlan?
Aye.
Stacy? Yes. Phil?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And the next is the approval of an employment contract for the Poe Elementary School's assistant principal.
We made you work for it tonight. I would like to introduce our incoming principal at Poe, Stephanie Stallman, to introduce our recommended candidate for assistant principal at Poe. Stephanie.
Well, we are very happy to be here tonight, and I appreciate everyone being okay with a little wiggle worm in the front row today, but he wanted to come and support. We are incredibly excited to recommend Melissa Sutton as our assistant principal next year. Currently, she is working as a literacy coach in our district. She spends a lot of time at Poe. She has great relationships with our staff. She is a very strong, collaborative colleague who a lot of people just really respect and admire. And I know she's going to do great things with our building, and I cannot wait to have her as my teammate.
I would just like to thank the board for this opportunity, and I am very excited to get to know the Poe staff and community on an even deeper level, and I'm very excited for the things to come, so thank you.
Okay. May I please get a motion to approve the employment agreement with Melissa Sutton as Poe Elementary School Assistant Principal?
So moved.
Second.
All right, yeah, I get to go first. Yes? Debbie?
Yes.
Bill?
I think you needed to wait for the thank yous until after the yeses. But yes,
Arlen?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Dagmara? Motion carries.
Congratulations. And the last item under new business is the approval of employment agreement for the Director of Special Education.
So this is a position that existed in the district prior to the reorganization of the Student Services Department 5 years ago, but one that we are reactivating as our needs continue to evolve and our need for additional leadership and capacity becomes more clear. So I'm going to turn it over to Kim Klein to introduce our new recommended director.
Lucy, please stand up. I'm going to stay here and introduce you. So Lucy started in our district as a psychology intern. And then she was hired on as a full-time psychologist. Her entire career has been dedicated to School District 21. And really, she's a natural fit for all of the roles that she has moved into. When she was the Integrated Services Coordinator, she did more staff evaluations than anyone can even imagine. She started the MTSS process with our related service providers, which will be a great match moving into her Director of Special Education role and working with the directors in the Equity and Learning Department. Lucy has done so much for the students and for the staff in this district that I'm really excited that she completed her program to become a Director of Special Education during COVID. So Lucy, welcome.
Okay, may I get a motion?
so moved.
Second, and if I can just add one thing, I started as a special educator. I taught for 2 years in Chicago, and nothing is more important to me than having a great special ed program, and I think nothing is more important to our students than having a great special ed program. So welcome, I'm glad you're here, and we look forward to all the hard work you'll do. Second.
Jessica?
Debbie?
Yes.
Bill?
Aye.
Arlen?
Aye.
Stacy?
Yes.
Phil? Dagmara?
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion carries.
Okay, the next regular meeting of the Board of Education for CCSD21 is scheduled for Thursday, April 18th. We will be heading into closed session, and we will not be taking any action afterwards. So, I need a motion, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Bill?
Aye.
Arlen? Stacy? Phil? Dagmara? I vote yes. Debbie?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your evening.